My Uncle Mark used to take me for bike rides, and the highlight of the bike ride was when we would stop in an old railway tunnel for pedestrians and carts. It was long disused, and we would pause inside and he'd tell me a ghost story. Mostly they were stories that he'd read in books. But sometimes, just sometimes, he'd tell me a ghost story based on his own experience. And this is one of them. Night struggled to hold sway as I completed my night shift at the carriage and wagon workshops. Bleary-eyed and weary of bone, I made my way along the time-worn dirt track that led me across Vassar's Wreck and towards the warmth of my beckoning bed. The only sounds to be heard in the stillness were the comforting whirring of the dynamo and the repetitive crunch of Dunlop tyres against occasionally complaining gravel. The reassuring beam of light from my single lamp scythed through a gathering mist, which drifted with increasing intensity from the chuckling river, which lay hidden behind a shrouded screen of trees in the distance. My spirits were high as the mist-wreathed timbers of the old wooden bridge loomed into view, but as I drew closer, a sense of unease descended, and I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stiffen. Instinctively, I dismounted, and covering the lamp with my left palm, continued the last few yards on tiptoe. The sense of unease doubled and then trebled, until every fibre of my being seemed to unite in a despairing effort to dissuade me from continuing, but I was too young and too proud to respond to their warnings. Besides, this was the shortest route home, and to turn back now would add another 15 minutes to my journey. So I continued. In truth, I wasn't really expecting anything untoward to happen, and the uneasiness had abated somewhat, to be replaced with that developing sense of invincibility which is common to the young. However, my alertness quickly returned as the mist cleared momentarily, and I saw the figure of a young woman standing close to the middle of the bridge. She was leaning over the wooden railing, apparently lost in thought and oblivious to my presence. My eyes were riveted to her slender form as she gazed unswervingly into the swirling torrent below, and I surmised that she was barely out of her teens. The river was at its deepest at this point, and strewn with hidden rocks that would wreak havoc on man or woman alike, should they be unfortunate or foolhardy enough to encounter them. To my mind there could be only one explanation for her presence at this hour of the morning, and it was one that filled me with dread. She had clearly come to resolve some overpowering and unrelenting despair. This spot had long been a magnet to those unfortunate souls who, for whatever reason, had come to end their lives. Inwardly, I felt a mounting sense of panic. Nevertheless, I tried to exude an air of calmness. I gently rested the frame of my bicycle against a nearby tree trunk and stepped deliberately onto the bridge. "It's a cold morning to be out for a stroll," I called, the words sounding forced and hollow to my straining ears. There was no reply. No movement. I felt emboldened by this inactivity, and concluded that she had not yet made up her mind. I inched my way forward until I was in reach of her, and confident that I could prevent any sudden action on her part. "Whatever it is, it can't be as bad as all that, love," I reassured her, keeping my voice as calm as possible, whilst inwardly my heart was palpitating and going 10 to the dozen. There was no reply. No movement. My fingers alighted on her right shoulder. "What you need is a nice cup of tea," I said, "and things will soon—" The words were stifled in my throat, as the figure turned, and I found myself staring into the face of a long dead corpse. Horror-struck, with arms flailing in panic, I backed away, almost falling over my bicycle and knocking it to the ground. I didn't pause to recover it. I ran for dear life and didn't stop until I reached the safe haven of home. I dashed past my startled mother, up the stairs and into my bed, where I buried myself under the blankets. Later that afternoon, as the cool November sun watched impassively from above, I returned to the bridge. As I approached, I could see that it had been roped off, and a small group of workmen were engaged in conversation. "Have you seen a bike?" I called, to no one in particular. "There's one over there by the tree," came the reply. "But you can't come this way, mate. Bridge has had it. You'll have to walk round." An arm waved my attention to the centre of the bridge, where the spectre had stood. There was a gaping hole, directly above a cluster of jagged rocks, which pierced the cascading flow like unforgiving tusks. Had I ridden across the bridge in the mist, I would surely have plunged through and been dashed to death on the rocks below. He paused, looked at me for a moment, and then said, "Never be afraid of the dead, John. It is only the living who will hurt you."